When we were in the cloud, what has moved was the storage data and the compute. Now we are witnessing when what is moving is the agency, the ability to act, transact, and commit in the name of organization. And that poses a new type of challenges in terms of identity and trust when interacting between organizations.
How important will be verifiable identity to distinguish humans, organizations, or AI systems?
We talk about systems that are accessing very sensitive data, for example, the medical health records. If someone will capture your credit card numbers, you cancel and issue new credit card. If someone takes over your identity with a passport, you issue new passport. But if someone gets your DNA code, you can't change it. Decentralized identity seems to be the only one that can really handle this level of complexity, speed, and the trust level required for those autonomous transactions.
Hi, I'm Dr. Lorena Nessi for CCN. Today, I'm joined by Pawel Sobczak, Vice President of Global Sales and Partnerships at the Hashgraph Group. We will discuss blockchain's role in digital identity infrastructure, the limits of AI agents managing crypto assets, the potential of self-sovereign identity, and how trust, privacy, and compliance shape the future of blockchain adoption. Hello, Pawel. Welcome to CCN. Thank you for joining us today.
Hello, Lorena. Great to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. Shall we start at the beginning? Why do you believe that digital identity infrastructure is more important than long-term blockchain use case than AI systems managing crypto assets?
So maybe just starting as the Hashgraph Group, we are the company that brings the technology that until recently was available to crypto insiders to the enterprise market, allowing CFOs, CEOs, VPs of supply chain, CISOs, to deploy in the real business cases. The Hashgraph Group is building on Hedera network, which is not really blockchain in the direct sense, because using the Hashgraph algorithm is a graph, not a chain. But it has several implications in terms of performance and the cost of use and energy demands. So it's all related. The broader name is distributed ledger technologies. And it all started with the cryptocurrencies, a crypto asset, but is getting adoption in the much broader portfolio of the solutions. That includes also the identity, decentralized identity. Until now, the companies very often are using the centralized systems from big vendors or sometimes niche vendors. But when it starts to connect between enterprises, between jurisdictions, it starts to show the benefits of the decentralized identity and the self-defined identity. In particular, when we entered the agentic era industry. When we were in the cloud, what has moved was the storage data and the compute. Now we are witnessing when what is moving is the agency, the ability to act, transact, and commit in the name of organization. And that poses a new type of challenges in terms of identity and trust when interacting between organizations.
Okay, great. And why do you think that actually these digital identity systems have a stronger long-term use case for blockchain than actually just financial automation?
The blockchain and the distributed ledger technologies, including Hedera, play a critical role because they are designed for decentralized systems with equal participation from all the players, not relying on any particular centralized registry or identity source. At the Hashgraph Group, we brought a product called ID Trust that is doing exactly this, leveraging the power of Hedera, probably today the most enterprise-ready distributed ledger network, which is governed by the council of over 30 global enterprises, including Google, IBM, Deutsche Telekom, FedEx, giving the institutional support and also the assurance that the governance of this network is is done properly. Nobody can take over control. Nobody can change identity or transaction that has been anchored on the blockchain-like network on the distributed ledger. And that makes the solutions ready for use today.
So you think that is what's going to actually happen to be the most important aspect for adoption? What I'm trying to say is, like, why are we going with your project more into this identity self-sovereign project instead of more AI automation for trading? Why is it more relevant?
As long as the AI supported systems, and we are seeing agentic AI in every situation, in every context, every project. Also, it's also embedded in all our products and the Hashgraph Group. Very often it starts with deploying agentic processes, workflows inside of enterprise, where identity is well managed, well known. But we are coming to the moments where, imagine, my purchasing agent is connecting, looking for the best provider of the products, automated way, high frequency, without human in the loop at every stage of the activity, and talking to multiple providers. And imagine that on the other side, there's also agent, the selling agent. How can we ensure that those two agents really are what they claim to be, that those two agents are authorized to do what they claim they are authorized in terms of placing order up to special value, commit certain terms and conditions of the delivery or price. And that starts to be when it goes beyond the traditional centralized identity systems and requires something that can work cross companies, globally, cross jurisdictions, and still the self-sovereign identity provide all the benefits, including also partial authorization. Not everything that I can do, I would give to an agent that operates on my behalf. I want to be very selective with a high level of granularity and delegate to the agent only subset of my own personal delegations. And that creates new area, new challenge, how to do it when you deal with the organizations or agents that you have never any contact before, how to trust them to be able to execute transactions with a financial value. Is it purchasing? Is it trading? Is it shipping something between, and especially between the jurisdictions to have the common base? And the blockchain technologies are perfect for this type of environments and use cases.
Okay, brilliant. So it's actually a matter of trust, right? And these identity frameworks actually promise that individuals control their own credentials without relying on these centralized databases, right? However, there have been many pilots, many projects in which adoption has remained limited. So in your view, what has actually slowed this real-world adoption of self-sovereign identity systems? And how do you do it differently? How are you guys doing differently?
As the Hashgraph Group, we are involved in building a projects, pilots, MVPs for already 2 years. We have invested millions of dollars in building real-life, enterprise-grade use cases. We collected a lot of experience. That was generally the base of the intellectual property, which is now part of our products, like ID Trust, like Track Trace, like EcoGuard. The experience that we have, and also the experience that I brought from my previous work at IBM, that there is a gap between technical capabilities and the business readiness to use those technical capabilities, and at the same time manage the risk and manage the costs. And what blockchain and distributed ledger technologies bring to the equation is limited risk, because you really can trust that the transaction will not be modified. You can trust the identity of the application, the persona, the agents, the smart device, robots, autonomous vehicle, you name it. So it improves the trust, which is of course limiting the risk and costs at the end. And also it allows to do a transaction at the higher speed. The traditional ID systems were prepared for people. Of course, there's this limited number of people on the planet. So you can size the maximum the number of human entities, even if someone has 2, 3 different identities. But if you look at the smart devices, the drones, robots. Soon every household will have few robots beyond the Roomba cleaning the floor, but really humanoid robots. When we go into the drones and AI agents that will be deployed in the millions of instances, this requires scale, that requires speed, and the cost factor is also changing. The traditional ID systems built for the static IT computers, devices, are very different from the very dynamic at the machine speed transactions executed by agents, and there is no chance to have a human in the loop at every stage of such transaction. And what we also see, the machine clients that will be very popular in this agentic AI world are creating another dimension of complexity and challenges. So to summarize that, not all the projects have moved to full-time, full-scale deployment because of those gaps between technical readiness and ability of business to adopt with costs, with the risks, with the proper understanding of the benefits and the challenges brought by the technology.
Absolutely. And there is this other limitation, I would think, or I would say, which is regulation, right? You also have to comply with obligations such as anti-money laundering and know your customer requirements and so on. So how can decentralized identity systems meet these regulatory requirements with actually creating new forms of surveillance? Are they different from the ones that we are used to?
So we are operating out of Switzerland. We operate globally, but we're headquartered in Switzerland. Switzerland is not part of the European Union, but very embedded in the European standards. And here the EU Commission is bringing eIDAS 2.0 as a standard for identity. The countries will have to comply, and already very good systems implemented with centralized government-owned registries. But when it starts to interact between the governance, between the jurisdictions, this comes a new challenge. All of that is already covered by the eIDAS 2.0, the European regulation. And our product is fully compliant with that, ready for it. The same with the Swiss eID system. There's also standard defined in the UK. UK is not part of EU, but very similar principles. So there is a number of regulatory requirements that are organizing, structuring the identity challenge. But at the same time, there is a big room to make connectivity between systems to be able to operate at a scale. And those regulations do not enforce any particular technology. They are very open to distributed ledger technologies, and those technologies have a huge benefit in certain areas. Similarly, with KYC, we had the projects in South Africa when we have proven how bank issuing proof about certain customer don't have to repeat that every time new bank is trying to deal with that client, but they can share the credential, they can share the information about that individual or company that has been once checked and reused, not disclosing everything, if not needed, controlling how much is disclosed, but disclosing certain proofs and confirmation that the KYC process happened and it's safe to deal with that entity without the cost and time required to do the whole KYC process again and again.
Okay, so from what you say, you're saying that these ledgers actually can help create these interoperable digital identity systems across countries, and that is already happening, isn't it?
Absolutely. It can be done. It is happening in selected area, but we are expecting, especially when the more players will be on the markets. And what I said, not just individuals, not the humans, but also smart devices and AI agents. If you take all of that together, operating globally, cross-country, cross-organization, cross-jurisdiction frameworks, the distributed ledger is very good technology to handle this type of volume and offering at the same time, like Hedera is an excellent example, very, very price competitive costs per transactions. And also predictability of the cost per transaction, because that's one of the challenges is that on the blockchain, when the gas fees are linked to the whatever token, the currency, cryptocurrency is used, the recent market fluctuations bring a bit of unpredictability on the real cost of running blockchain-based systems. The Hedera, which is for us the base, everything we do at the Hashgraph Group is built on the Hedera. It's all denominated in the hard currency, in this case US dollars, at a very, very attractive price and very predictable price. And those are these components that sometimes slow down the broad adoption of a very good technology or very good product.
So it seems that governments are taking on this opportunity, right, to adapt this blockchain-based identity infrastructure and use it and actually follow with regulation. But what about users? Are users also convinced, you think, to adopt these technologies or to rely on these decentralized technologies more than on the centralized providers that they have been used to?
It depends very much on the user. There are some people that are fully trusting their governments and the ID systems that are controlled by the government central registries. Experience shows that sometimes if you are on some social media platform and your identity, your life, your history, your experience, what you want to share with others is linked there, and one day you have been blocked or removed from the system, you lose everything. You are not existing anymore. There are cases when the governments are issuing against certain individuals regulations that are limiting their freedom of being visible, which doesn't happen on the distributed identity systems. And I'm not talking about any criminal or improper activities, just people preference to be more independent from any centralized. Is it enterprise? Is it government? Is it any central entity? If they want to work in the decentralized environment, that's the preference. We have run last year a huge hackathon in Africa that brought around 50,000 participants. All of them were using distributed identity. It was very good stress test for us to test how quickly issue high volumes of the identities, how to operate that. And it worked perfectly fine. And this left a lot of adoption we see right now across Africa among students, developers, enterprises, that this decentralized identity is much more naturally taken. And there are some institutions that will still behave in very traditional way, rely on some corporate standards, centralized identity. However, when they will start to communicate more frequently with external players, and what we see right now when the digital product passport is being implemented, the manufacturers from India, from China, from Far East entering European markets, they see more and more connectivity, they see more and more exposure to the regulations, and they need not just idea, but products that work, that solve the real life business problems today.
Okay, that takes us also to another technical, I wouldn't call it problem, but a technical question. So blockchains actually create these permanent records, which create this identity data that is there, right? On a semi-permanent basis, at least. So how can these blockchain identity systems correct or revoke the credential if the information became outdated or compromised?
So this blockchain-like, I'm still referring to the distributed ledger technologies. We work on Hedera, which is technically not chain, it's a graph. But it's all related. I think this popular use. So this adds the level of not only having technology in place, but also have a proper regulatory or processes around the governance. Define the procedures. What happens if you want to revoke identity, or what if you lose identity? We are aware that there's a lot of assets that are just sitting there without any access. In terms of the issuing identity, amending identity, there are specific ideas, the specific processes, and they are sometimes developed in form of the consulting services. Sometimes they are embedded in the product. So what we have as an ID Trust is a set of both technology and the use cases that are bringing the ready-to-use in the enterprise environment mechanism to deploy and manage the decentralized identity. And that's important for those customers that don't have a time to experiment or don't have the risk tolerance to experiment. They want a product that comes with defined functionality, proven in pilots and MVPs and the industrial use cases. And in addition, coming with the SLA, the enterprise-grade support. Because many of those technologies have kind of community-based support. If you're running enterprise system and that's 11 p.m. on the New Year Eve and you post question to the community portal, you may get in 3 days answer. But that's not acceptable for the real-time enterprise use cases. That's why we have brought to the market Hashcare, which is our 24/7 support desk dedicated for Hedera, which is yet another element that makes the Hedera and Hedera-based solutions from our portfolio ready for enterprise use today. It's not a mission to build something within the next 12 or 24 months. It is operating today.
Great. And how do you think that how important will be verifiable identity become in the future to distinguish humans, organizations, or AI systems, but especially in preventing fraud?
I think first it has to be clear if you are speaking with a person speaking with a machine. We witnessed recently the big debate about between one of the AI vendors and one of the governments, not going into details. If all the scenarios are used, if you can have autonomous weapon where it's not a person but the machine or AI system deciding should or not should, who's a friend, who's a foe, which are very thrilling areas, very risky areas. But in doing just going down to normal business, it is important to know with whom are you dealing with. Is it machine? Is it human? Technology today allows to do really deep fake. That is very difficult to distinguish even if you see the video. Is it real or is it AI generated? And it will be even more difficult in the next 6 months because the technology is progressing so fast. But the distributed identity is just built to allow you to confirm who is on the other side. Is it really the entity it claims they are? Which organization they represent or which person they represent, what credentials or the delegations they have to act with you. And in particular, if that we talk about systems that accessing very sensitive data, for example, the medical health records. In the pharma industry, in the health industry, that's probably one of the most precious and the most sensitive records, your health data. If someone will capture your credit card numbers, you cancel and issue new credit cards. If someone takes over your identity with a passport, you issue new passport. But if someone gets your DNA code, you can't change it. Not in this life, at least. So this is very high value, very sensitive assets. And if there are AI systems or humans requesting access to data presenting, I am authorized, I am the entity or system or person that has a right, you really need to validate and verify if that's true. And for that, this technology has a huge impact on how the automated systems operating often at machine speed, much, much faster than the normal human interaction when you have a time to validate everything. There's a high volume, high intensity transactions. This will require the identity systems, and decentralized identity seems to be the only one that can really handle this level of complexity, speed, and the trust level required for those autonomous transactions.
Wow, and how do you see the future? Do you think that the future of digital identity systems, from what you said, will be the backbone of the actual identity of individuals? From what you said, I can imagine that we would be using these decentralized systems to back up data such as our very biological blueprints. What do you think about that?
I think that the role will be growing, maybe even majority, but there will be the two systems operating. I think you cannot disconnect from your central government identity. You will need that to pay taxes, to get access to the government online services, to travel across the borders. You can't avoid that. But there's, beside of those selected use cases, there's a lot of other applications where this decentralized identity and self-sovereign identity have real use case, and I see the adoption is growing. We see that is used by the individuals, particularly among the developers, because they are on the edge of personal and enterprise worlds. So the adoption is happening very, very fast. We see that in the system that, for example, the fun clubs, Formula One, football clubs, when you buy ticket, but also you get tokens, digital pins, semi-certificates of attendance on series of events. This is building a lot of popularity. This is building new industries. And people are more and more willing to adopt these technologies, spend money just to enjoy a freedom of choice, enjoy new type of entertainment. And in my opinion, the role will be is growing very fast, but both centralized, government-led, and decentralized will be working in parallel. And that creates another area how to integrate those two worlds that you can fluently move between one and another. Something like Kubernetes built for the containerized software that you are virtualizing from your infrastructure, and you can move between on-prem and hybrid cloud and full public cloud systems with ease. And that will require some interconnectivity, interoperability that will allow you to use smoothly both environments, both ecosystems.
And how do you think these systems can not be used as a tool for surveillance if they're going to be so interlinked with each other?
The whole idea of self-sovereign identities that you decide how much you share. You own your own data. So you can identify that you is you without sharing who you are, or that you have access to certain systems. So there is, in any technology, there is room for misuse, for fraud, for scamming, spamming, etc. And also the users will learn how to use that in the reasonable way, maintaining own privacy or identity and not being subject to mass surveillance. I think the whole idea of the cryptocurrencies was born from not disclosing everything that is normally disclosed in the traditional payment systems, which of course created some area for misuse or criminal activities. But it brought more good than bad. And it's the same I expect will happen with decentralized identity. There is very strong positive use case need for using it. There will be some gray zone. We can't avoid it, but we can learn and we can develop tools to minimize this gray zone or this kind of like mass surveillance, as you mentioned, risks for individuals, and still maintain the healthy balance.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Pawel. Do you think there's anything we should ask to this conversation before saying goodbye?
Well, I would say that we are experiencing right now the big move. In the cloud era, the move to cloud took as I mentioned already, the data storage and computing to the cloud or to the mixed hybrid cloud environment. And we are now experiencing the move of agency, the ability to act, transact, commit in the name of the organization, individual, company. And this is all about agents. Today, primarily operating with an organization when the identity is well managed already, but those agentic AI systems working cross-country, cross-jurisdictions, cross-organizations will need identity. That's, I think, area that is not yet mentioned loud enough in many agentic AI discussions. But it will become reality, and I believe it will become reality very soon. And the companies that are investing in this space are properly investing their money. And that's the area where we, as the Hashgraph Group, have something to offer, and when we play and we invest a lot to build the capabilities in that space. We are there already.
Well, thanks so much, Pawel. I think that you are right. There is no way of actually stopping digital identity systems to use DLTs to back it up. It's like, it's one of those inventions, I think, like art, when you create something and it's like, why didn't we use this before? In 5-10 years time, we'll be saying that. It's like, this was so obviously needed, right? In a global, interconnected world driven by digital technologies. Why didn't we have it?
Technologies there is all about adoption, education, enablement of the users, showing the real use cases that add value at the minimized risk. And that's our role. I see a big future for this kind of systems based on the distributed ledger technologies.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Pawel, for joining us today at CCN.
Thank you, Lorena, for having me. Have a good day.